Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It is now 9 o'clock. We'll give Jim a minute or two more to get connected on, at which point we will get started. If we don't have him shortly, I will give him a call, make sure he's not having technical problems.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning, Andy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. Let's say, Sue, do you want to turn your camera on? Or
Yeah, I'm just waiting so I can start this Audacity recording too.
okay.
I guess I could just start it.
Yeah, you can start it. I've already started recording the video.
Okay.
With it.
All right. Why doesn't it show my camera? Why doesn't it show me?
That's a good question. I'm not sure why I keep letting you start your video.
But, I mean, that's okay. I just wondered.
Yeah, compare that. Do you get a prompt about starting video?
Yep.
Okay. Shouldn't have to do that, but I'm glad that worked.
Here we are.
Good to see you, Sue. Okay, looks like we have Jim as well. Jim, are you on?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Can you hold on just a second?
Okay.
Sorry. My cat was wanting to join the meeting.
Glad to have them in attendance too. Okay. The time is now 9:02 in the morning. I'm going to call the Saturday, May 23rd, Marion Township Board of Supervisors workshop meeting to order. We are still doing these meetings remotely via Zoom due to the current stay-at-home order from Governor Wolf and the whole COVID-19 crisis that we're in presently. Normally we do the Pledge of Allegiance based on the fact that this is a conference call. Essentially, it gets a little complicated trying to do that. It gets hard to understand everybody and gets confusing. So we're going to omit that in this venue. The next order of business is the public comment. Do we have any public comments?
There were no emails.
Okay. And unless somebody raises their hand who is in attendance on that, we'll move right into the items for business this morning. I don't see anybody raise their hand or anything, so let's begin. The first item on the agenda is the emergency declaration. We made this at the March Board of Supervisors meeting with the that it can extend to an undetermined period of time until further action by the board. I suggest that we leave this in place until we get the all clear with the state government in terms of going back to agreements. So at this point, I would suggest no action either today or Thursday. Irene, Jim?
Audio is garbled to me.
Yeah, I have a hard time hearing too.
I apologize. Let's see if there's anything I can do on my end. I don't know if it's me either, but
Since you're closer, it seems a little bit clearer.
okay. I will scoot closer to my computer then. So I'm suggesting we don't do anything with this. We leave it in place until we get the all clear from essentially the state government and we go back to a green state.
Correct, because we're still under.
Irene, we lost you there for a second.
I agree. We're still under red for Berks County, so I would not remove this at all.
Okay. Okay. Next item on the agenda is the management coordinator. John Sileski would like to say a few words and discuss a couple of things. So if John's there.
Hang on, he's moving over. You can bring the chair.
Morning, John.
Morning.
How are you?
Awesome. How about yourself?
You good?
Where do I even begin? First start, the criteria for the coordinator, I've completed all the FEMA classes, the FEMA training. I've been in contact with my coordinator from Berks County EMA. As soon as they open back up their training, I'll be able to complete all the stuff on their side. Some of the, just the paperwork, basically how to do their paperwork so they like it. Then I had an interesting conversation with the sergeant from the Fish Commission with regards to Tulpahawken Creek and a few things there. The Title 30 pollution laws that between if somebody dumps something into the creek as well as any emergency response within the township is not mitigated properly, that we as well as that agency, if it's a tow company, the fire department, we can be liable also. So getting over to the fire department side of things, I want to try to do like a hazmat assessment of what their capabilities are, what they're going to do. You know, if there's a crash on one of the bridges over the top of the creek, how are they going to mitigate it? Do they have the equipment? Which is another interesting thing. I got a call from one of the guys over at the county that they had contacted our fire company with regards to their current PPE distribution. What are they using? What do they need? And the chief said, we don't even have a computer, so I'm not even doing anything with that. Through the State Relief Association, they can and are allowed to buy a computer. So one of the things, I guess, to confirm that they do or do not have a computer, to, I guess, well, the township, speaking to a few other emergency management coordinators, you 3 supervisors can mandate them to have a computer, turn in monthly reports, because I don't know when the last time you all got any kind of reports. Like me personally, as coordinator, I'd like to see a copy of every response report. Is anything involving accidents, the fire response, just to see what's going on, and honestly to see where your money's going when it comes to workers' comp, insurance, anything else. And then, I mean, hopefully nothing comes of it as far as anything negative, but they're just on the oversight side of things, we don't know what they're doing.
Okay. Yeah. Let me try and get this coordinated between yourself, myself, and Mervyn Hoover, or one of the other individuals in the fire company.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of the funding things that are required or certain submissions are all electronic at this point.
Yes. And that's a big deal as of, it's either officially this year or from last year. If they do not submit the electronic reports to the state, they will not be eligible to get any of the PEMA grants. And that's as simple as they fill out a report, they send it in, they get free money from the state. So again, I don't know, I haven't spoken to anybody over there yet.
Okay. Let's take that away as an action item for you and I to try to bridge that gap between us and the fire company, and we'll see if we can't get to where we need to be nicely.
And then the one other item on the flood plan training.
Mm-hmm.
There's even, I think there's more extensive training I've been reading about on the floodplain and assessment than there even is with the EMA coordinator. So it's definitely going to take me a little bit of time to get up to speed on that, because they're not holding any of the classes, obviously. I've been able to do everything I can online, but there's a lot of face-to-face meetings you have to take. So as soon as I can get them in, I'll let you guys know.
Okay, absolutely understood. We're kind of in that same boat for some of the road things.
So that's about it on my end.
Okay, phenomenal. Thank you, John. Sounds like you're making solid headway on the task we've given you. So thank you very much for your diligence.
No problem. Thank you. I'll be over here.
Okay, we're good. Okay, Irene or Jim, do we have any questions around that?
I'm sorry.
Oh.
No, it's just surprising to hear that because of the lack of computer, they're missing out on funding. And again, like, we have to open up the lines of communication to understand what all of our agencies are doing in our community so we could all work together.
Absolutely. And if it's something as simple as getting a computer and assisting them on, maybe it's a simple matter of a lot of them don't know how to use it. That's things that we can very easily correct and work with each other on making sure that it's the best solution that we have possible. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the treasurer. Last month, Dan Klein expressed an interest in being the treasurer after we were unable to successfully bond Irene Height as the treasurer. Dan submitted his resume, submitted the bonding request. We got the quote back for $730 annually for the $900,000 treasurer's bond. So it's all clear there. I would suggest that Thursday night we put the motion out there and vote on appointing Dan as the secondary treasurer.
Agreed.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is QuickBooks. Through the course of going through the accounts and trying to reconcile, it looks like there's some long-standing issues that are present in the books that we'd like to bring in a professional one. Irene, do you want to maybe go into that a little further?
No, I just like everyone to just take a look at the quotes and just let me know which agency you'd like me to call. I'd like to just get working on this as soon as possible. We've gotten quotes from as much as $100 to $125 an hour and down to $45. So I'm just looking for the okay to go ahead and call someone so that we could start working on this.
Okay. I reviewed the stuff. I'm honestly thinking the $45 an hour one, based on the description of what we're looking to do, is probably the better option, simply because even if it takes that person 2 hours to do what would take the other person 1, we're still essentially $40 an hour ahead.
Yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't take them too long, but I think this is a necessary thing that we need to do to try to level set and correct some of the longer standing just things that are wrong with the ledgers.
Yep. And maybe update our.
Yeah, and saying that there may be some things that we can do,
See if they-
updating or improving certain processes that we do. There may be a simpler way to do payroll, for example.
Yeah. Well, it's a 2018 program. I'd like to see if they recommend, having an annual update to it. I mean, I don't know what was done previously, but just keeping up to date with the program surely makes it easier for accounting and auditing purposes.
Yeah, one of the other things that we may be able to do on some of the newer versions, and I'll be honest, I haven't really dug into that kind of granularity, but for QuickBooks Online, we may be able to get a direct connection to the bank account to see a balance so that we can actually reconcile. There may be more bells and whistles, so to speak, on the newer versions that we simply don't have on the ones right now.
Yeah. I know that can get pretty expensive. The desktop version tends to be way less expensive.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and again, like, I'd rather ask someone who deals with this on a routine basis whether or not that is what's recommended, what might just be easier for us as a township.
I agree. Okay, so our homework is to take a look at those things, give that some thought. That way we can have an insightful discussion Thursday night. Excellent,
thank you.
Okay. Next order of business is the website. I've been working with Tom Rose throughout the week, who is our art director. I've sent over the color samples, the design draft, and any of the other items that you needed. I will be trying to get a nice panoramic shot of some of the scenery in the township the next nice sunny day that we have. So we have something for the banner at the top, and we'll be sending over the tentative logo for the top left corner. Within realistically the next couple of days to a week, we should be in contact with the project manager, Sal Urbano, about the actual deployment of the website. So we're clicking along now that we put it back on track. I'm also able to do some other technology related things in tandem to the website being built. One of them is getting the website's associated email. So if we have a domain name for the website, getting an email address that has that as the app, whatever it is.com. It's on us to acquire that. That's easy. It's like $10 a year for a domain name. And another like 99 cents a month for one email address, which I'd like to try to keep this relatively simple. And I have a spider web diagram explaining how I want to approach this so that we have the core bit for the township. And then as supervisors potentially come and go in the future, that we can very easily and neatly snap them in without having to constantly turn over emails or pay for email accounts that have a long retention period. So really what we need to walk away with from this agenda item today is, I need to hang that up because somebody's calling. Is we need to decide what we want our website's name to be. So there's a number of Marion Townships apparently elsewhere in Pennsylvania, as well as other places in the country. So a lot of the more generic ones like Marion.com is already taken. Marion TWP is already taken. Marion Township is already taken. So the two that jumped out at me as suggestions were either MarionBerks.com or MarionTWPBerks.com. So it's essentially Marion Township Berks. There's also Berks Marion, which I didn't really like. I just put it up as an option, but we just need to decide what we want our domain name to be, and I can probably get that set up within a couple hours.
I liked Marion Township, Marion TWP Berks.
Okay. John?
I do too.
Or Jim and Sue, excuse me?
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me.
What was that?
Doesn't matter to me.
Fair. Jim, what are your thoughts?
I like Marion Township Berks. That's great.
Okay, so Dan Klein called me. I think he's having some hard time getting into the meeting.
Hang on a second, I got a call too.
Yeah, that might be Dan.
Yeah. Yep, he called me too.
Yeah. Okay, Irene, can you do me a favor? Can you shoot him a text or give him a call and let him know that it's the same thing as last time?
Okay.
Okay. So based on that discussion, and this is largely, I think, a housekeeping item, so it would be okay to do in this sort of venue, but I'll make a motion to authorize me to book the MarionTWPBerks.com domain name. And like I said, it's around $8 to $10 a year for the domain name registration.
Second.
Roll call,
Second
Peter,
that.
Aye.
Irene,
Aye.
Jim.
Aye.
Okay, I will make sure that we get that today. And the nice thing is now that we have that, or will have that, I can get the more permanent email set up. I can start getting the Comcast emails forwarded over to that new mailbox. I can set up things like Google Drive, Google Calendar, so that we can start putting things out, especially once the website's up, for reminders around, like, it's trash day, it's a recycling day, there's a township meeting tonight, there's a community association meeting tonight, all that kind of neat stuff. So there's a lot of cool things that we can do once we have that in place. It's kind of the linchpin of a lot of other things. Seeing Kelly on. Kelly, I'm going to talk to you at some point about leveraging, hi Kelly, leveraging some of the stuff that we're doing for the website and some of the other technological items for the community association, so that you guys have the ability to potentially have a text message list or an email list, or even a shared calendar somewhere that you guys can keep track of things like the car show or street sweeping dates or whatever. So I'll be in contact with you probably this week, depending on what my schedule looks like, to work with you on getting some of the groundwork set there. Okay, next in our order of business is the primary election. It is scheduled for Tuesday. I know the voting machines are on their way. They had contacted Peter Wallace because he was still the listed contact for that, and passed it along to me. The building, however, will need to be opened and closed for the poll workers. In the past, we've given the judge of elections a key to the building, and we've left the alarm system disengaged for the day. That somebody would come in either in the morning or prior night and turn it off, let them come do their thing, and then at the end of the night, somebody comes back out, locks the building up, and does the alarm system again. This has worked extremely well in the past, so I would suggest that we continue with that. For example, I can unlock the building in the morning early, and I can lock it up at night. I'm probably the closest by proximity to the township building, so it's certainly something I'm willing to accommodate. The county will be supplying face masks, shields, hand sanitizer, gloves, and tape to mark the floors to the poll workers. However, they will use at least 2 or 3 folding tables. The road crew was kind enough to remove the folding chairs from the room already, so it would just be a matter of the folding tables. And so I believe you said we have 2.
I found 2 folding tables in the stairwell.
Okay.
They're in okay shape, but Sharon thought that they would need 3 or 4. it was recommended that they push the tables together this way to keep social distancing,
I got you.
and 2 people sit at the table.
Okay.
So, I mean, they are kind of long tables. If you want to go, Butch put them in the meeting room already. I wiped them down. If you want to take a look at them, just to see if we need to get any more.
Okay. Out of curiosity, would we maybe be able to use the normal meeting table, like the board table?
The problem with those is if you lean on them or push them, they will fall apart.
Okay. Yeah, let's not do that then. So June 2nd is right around the corner, but I'm not opposed to potentially making a run down to like Costco or something like that and picking up a couple of folding tables.
Well, I think you can get those plastic ones for like $40 or something.
Yeah, they're not expensive, regardless of where we get them. I'm not opposed to getting a couple, simply because it is something that we can use, whether it's the election or, for example, the community picnic or any number of things. Folding tables are never a bad thing to have.
Right.
So I would say let's shop some prices. Let's see if we can figure out prices between now and Thursday and put that as a potential motion item for Thursday night to buy tables. Thank you, Sue.
Peter, that office supply store down by Dutch Way has great prices and everything imaginable. I stopped in there one day and I was stunned.
That's actually a good point. JDM also usually has a lot of good stuff. We go there for cleaning frequently, so.
The only thing is they don't have their prices online. You have to actually go in the store. But
Yeah, it is what it is. Somebody can make a trip out maybe sometime this week. I don't know if they're going to be open Monday because of the holiday, but I would doubt it.
don't know.
Yeah, either way. Let's take that away as homework. Whoever does it first, just text the group and let them know not to worry about going out. But let's check there and see what the prices are. If they're good, we have our answer. Okay. Unless we have anything additional about the tables, the next item on the agenda is the road projects for 2020. So we've been kicking this around. We have the list finalized. However, there are some spots that are going to need a little bit of remediation, which we're going to try and put into the packet ahead of the actual oil and shipping. I'm working on getting the heat map of the roads that we're going to be doing finalized so that I can share it with Irene and Jim. And then we can drive and mark off on that map, ideally in like red pen or something, where we think we need to do some remedial work prior to putting oil and chip down. I intend to do that ideally this weekend, so that we can get a hop on getting that posted out to Penn Bid and get that kind of stuff moving along. Unless you guys have any questions, like I said, once I get the map out, I implore you, please drive around too and give me your notes. That way it's not me unilaterally making decisions on which roads need what. Okay. Next item on the agenda is the Wintersville Road and Stepford Road intersection. We received a complaint from the resident there that tractor trailers are continuing to start in that intersection. At last month's Board of Supervisors meeting, we authorized McCarthy Engineering to do the needed study to place the signage to prevent trucks from coming down that particular road. We should have that for Thursday night. I talked to Jim McCarthy this past week, and we should have that for our review Thursday night. Depending on what we have in our hands Thursday night, we'll either be able to make a decision right then and there, or we may need to put it in it. Once we know what we're dealing with, I will contact the neighboring municipality so that we can coordinate getting signs on the opposite end as well to prevent trucks from going the opposite way on that road. Kind of on that same note, Andy sent us the Title 75 stuff around isolation distances for intersections. So from my understanding, there's a couple of spots where it's been a common complaint, and by the current law that's already in place, we can place signs there. Andy, would we actually have to put an ordinance in to place the signs, or can we place the signs based on the fact that it's supporting a current law or regulation?
Right. You could just base it on the motor vehicle code. So
Okay.
it's already in existence. It's already the fine's already set. Like if you wanted to change the fine, I can't remember what it is.
Yeah.
It's in that section. But if you wanted to alter that, you'd have to separately pass some things.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not really interested in fining necessarily. It's nice to have the component that's already in place, but I'm more looking for if we go out and let's say on Main Street and Water Street where that intersection is there, if we know we can't have people parking within 15 feet of the intersection, if we can just go stake a sign that says no parking from here to corner 15 feet from the.
Yes.
Okay, phenomenal. So Irene, Jim, food for thought. I know that intersection is particularly ugly, and I know there's been a lot of complaints around where Stonecrop is with cars parking too close to the intersection and impacting visibility. Let's take a look at it. I'll try and run them out, maybe hit it with a measuring tape and see where that actually translates to. But I'm thinking Thursday night we should consider making a motion to buy some no parking here to corner signs and start hitting some of the problem areas.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yes.
Also in that same vein of things, I'd like to throw this out as an idea. Again, give it some thought. We can discuss further Thursday night, but I'd like to see us at some point do a traffic study on Main Street to assess putting a four-way stop at the intersection of Church and Main by where Christopher's, what used to be Daryl's, is. I think that would benefit tremendously from having a four-way stop there.
And I've been getting a couple of phone calls and comments from people just about the speed issue, but that's an ongoing problem.
Yeah, and there's certain things that you can do to mitigate that. When everything opens back up again, there is a traffic calming seminar that the other Peter went to that goes through certain things, narrowing roadways, changing the way cars are parked, etc. I don't necessarily want to see us shrink the boulevard, if you will, on Main Street. But there are some other things that we can do. And one of the things that I have is just kind of a thing that I've been kicking around as a low priority that I'd like to see us do at some point is there's money to be had for putting bike lanes in. There's a lot of people that use the township for bicycle paths. It's a very, very nice scenic ride. So as we start to do any sort of road work or repairs or really honestly just enhancements as we go on, we could start leveraging that to help defray the cost of the road work. Main Street would be ideal. It's wide enough that you could have parked car, bike lane, lanes of travel, you could bike lane, parked cars, and that visually might help narrow the road as well. Hopefully for most people curtailing a little bit of the speeding. Because some of it's, you're never going to get away from people just driving fast. People that are going to do that are going to do that. But you kind of remove the wide open road syndrome of I don't really know how fast I'm going because it's such a nice wide area in which to drive. So that would be something for further discussion, but kind of keep that in your brain, bounce that around, and then hopefully as grant opportunities present themselves, we can go after that. Anything additional there, guys? Okay. Next item on the agenda is the Stonecrop HOA had sent us a letter about the street lights. McCarthy Engineering was kind enough to give us a response back stating kind of the underlying situation there. Unfortunately, the ask from the Homeowners Association is not something that we can really act on. The lights in question were installed and the associated escrow was released in the past. Unfortunately, the fact that the lights are leased by MedEd rather than purchased is irrelevant in terms of the escrow release. There isn't really anything more that we can do on that front because the agreement is to provide streetlights. It doesn't really specify in what method. The streetlights in phase 4 have not yet been installed, and subsequently the escrow money for it has not been released.
Fred Walters had given me a call yesterday about that particular issue, and he was just concerned about the bond money being released. So I said, you know, as far as that contract goes, that's something that I'm not familiar with as far as the original agreement. So hearing what you just said, you know, they said they had to provide. So again, that is an HOA issue, and I think understanding that McCarthy Engineering will approve of the bonds as long as that service has been fulfilled. The details of the service was hashed out, an issue that the HOA is going to have to deal with.
Okay, can you stay there right there for just a second? Dan called me.
Yeah, Dan's trying to get on. Oh, here's Fred.
Okay. Well, just slightly out of the norm here. I would say since we have Fred and Dan, two of the Stonecrop residents, and I think it was Fred who sent the letter in, let's actually recap agenda item number 9 that we just had gone through. Fred and Dan, welcome to the call. So the letter that was sent in by the Homeowners Association for Stonecroft about the streetlights, we reviewed that with the engineer, and the lights that were installed previously that are leased, and the escrow money was released in the past, there's really not a whole lot we can do about that. By the nature of what the actual plan is, it specifies that it has to supply streetlights, but it doesn't really supply what method in which they have to supply the streetlights in. So whether they're leased by MedEd or outright purchased is really kind of, unfortunately, irrelevant in this situation. As for the lights in phase 4, there's been no action on that. There's been no release of funds. But we'll continue to work with you guys in any capacity that we can. That is at our disposal from, I guess, Andy, keep me honest here, but from a legal and agreed requirement on the plans, if there is something we can do, we'll absolutely work with you. But in some degrees, our hands are kind of tied around what has already been approved.
Right. Our guideline is the plan. So if they're compliant with the plan, related to that escrow release, if they're doing what they're supposed to be doing under the plan that's recorded, then that's what we base our decision on, or the engineer bases their decision or their recommendation to the supervisors for what can be released and what was already done. So that's right. I mean, that's our guidance. Unfortunately, it's the only guidance we have.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
I think, does Fred want to make a comment, or can we? Fred?
Actually, let me see if anybody's. I don't see. Does Fred want to? Okay, I will ask Fred to unmute.
I have a problem in that the lights were purchased in Stonecroft's name or leased in Stonecroft's name when they were supposed to be supplied by Landmark / Stone Group. They effectively defrauded us by signing our name to a lease that benefited them in that they did not have to expend the money that they had bonded to expend. They had committed in bonding to furnish those lights, $2,400 a copy. And because of error, they were refunded the bonding. But I think it should be acknowledged that they did not furnish the lights. And that, at least you could give us the latitude of saying that we can turn off those street lights and that they are not furnished by Landmark. Because in honesty, when they were operating as the Stonecroft board, obliged us to lease those lights. And as I said in the letter, we have spent $90,000 on lease fees for lights that they were bonded to furnish. And if the township can't step up and say, hey, we made an error because we weren't given the right information, or the engineer can't step up and say he wasn't given the right information saying that the lights were furnished, that's not good.
So, Andy, the question here is based on what the plan is, and I'll have to pull the plan out and really grill this, but what would actually quantify furnished in the plan? Is getting the leased lights technically unfortunately within the letter of what's in the plan?
Yeah, well, I'll talk to Jim about it. Jim looked at the plan. I haven't looked at it yet related to this, but were they installed? Were they constructed? they were. So I think that's where Jim's coming from, is that the other issue is more of a side issue. It's probably an issue between the homeowners association and the developer. But you know, for the purposes of the plan, were they actually installed, approved, and you know, constructed? Are they there? Yeah.
Did they?
It,
They spend the $2,400 a light
Yeah.
to do it. They did not. So they took money which they didn't do any performance on.
No, for what it's worth, I agree that it's, I don't want to use the word shady, but it's probably not as above board as it should be in that respect, because it seems a little underhanded. But please understand that we would love to help you, but there are certain things that are limiting factors for us. And like with a lot of other things that I've stepped into, Irene has stepped into, and now Jim has stepped into, there's already approved things and we can't retroactively go and change that. There's a lot of things that prevent us, and rightfully so, of doing that.
What's your goal, Fred? What's your end goal?
Our end goal is to have Landmark install the lights that they were supposed to install, and get, rather than us having to pay for them. I would like your permission for us to cancel the Med-Ed contract and throw everything back on Landmark, so that you know, they have not fulfilled their obligation. And as your engineer said when we brought this up last year, oh, there were street lights there. And then when we questioned him a little bit more, his follow-up response, well, the last guy let it through. I mean, I don't want to, you know, call him negligent, but gee, when you don't do your homework, and as we included the documentation that shows Landmark's principals were the ones that signed Stonecrop Village up for the lights. That's, you're right, that's probably something we will have to take to court separately, because they were in violation of their own rules and bylaws for the development. I mean, one of the things says that you shouldn't do anything unconscionable. The other thing is there's a conflict of interest where they had the Stonecrop Village spending our money instead of they're spending their money. But then when they took the bond money back, that that gave them $60,000 profit straight up.
And that was a decision that they made, Stone Group made, when Stone Group controlled the board. Right before it was turned over to the HOA, they made that decision.
Yes.
Yeah, and again, not speaking as any sort of legal advice here, but that really kind of sounds like something between the HOA there and landlord, simply because there's a number of things that jump out at me. Principally, and again, not a lawyer here, but generally you don't sign other people up for leases or anything. That seems questionable in my mind. But again, anything that we can do from the township standpoint, anything that we need to look at or things that we can do to help you, we'll be happy to do that. But please understand that there are some things that are not at our disposal to be able to do.
Yeah, we're going to be putting in an information request for all of the bond money releases, the amounts, the times, the requests, because that'll show the previous streetlights being released, but that'll be done separately.
Okay. When that comes through, Irene and I will work on getting it through the right to know.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Jim or Irene, anything additional?
Thank you.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is Eagle Disposal. We received an email from Eagle Disposal about an upcoming proposed $1 per ton tipping fee. And that would eventually impact us, and it really would impact everybody. They've requested that we send a letter expressing our disapproval and lack of support for this. I'm not opposed to sending a letter to the legislators. We just have to put something up for it with saying that we don't support the proposed $1 hike per ton. We don't have to do anything with it today, but again, give it some thought for Thursday night. That way we can either give it yay or nay on sending the letter out.
I had a question on that.
Certainly.
According to their letter, they are going to, if this passes, they're going to start billing each of their customers.
Based on our contract, I don't know if they can actually do that.
Well, that was my question. Can they do that?
No. So based on my understanding of the contract, the last time we went through the renegotiation, is they're allowed to do a percentage increase every year over the next couple of years, and we have a renewal clause in there for I think 2 or 3 years following. They're not allowed to change costs mid-cycle. So this would be something that would potentially come up next year as part of the allowed percentage increase. But functionally, they could do that without this. My only interest really in this is that if we don't need to have another tax on something or an additional fee on something, then let's do our part to try to avoid that.
That was just the question I had, and
Yeah.
I could have misread that too, but
Yeah,
what I had.
I don't know if he was meaning like, you know, the cost of services would go up with new contracts or, you know, when they're being bid out. But yeah, they wouldn't be able to change something midstream.
Yeah.
In order
Like
to
that.
or any,
Okay.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is, I think, largely for information only, the Marlon and Wilma Martin letter of credit. Auto increase from $42,450.70 to $46,715.37. Okay, and the last item on the agenda is the Act 537. So before we dive into the thick of things, I have a statement that I'd like to make around that just for everybody that's on the call and for the record in general. We, and I feel that I speak for the board as a whole here, are working to address in the best possible way that we have assessed to be most effective in protecting those within the affected area, as well as everyone in Marion Township from undue hardship from the current Act 537 plan. The bottom line is, if we pull the plan hard right now, aside from the fact that the department could start issuing orders, fines, penalties, moratoriums on construction, a number of things, it sours any goodwill that we have with them at the present time and will likely reflect poorly on us should we ever have to take it to court in the future for not exhausting all avenues available to us before we went that route. If the time comes where we have to pull the plan, please believe me that it's still an option, it's still a consideration. We just want to approach this smart and in a tactical way instead of trying to bulldoze through the current hurdle, or figuratively speaking, coming out swinging at DEP. As for the whole COVID-19 thing, I'd personally like to see us have a town hall where we can sit down face to face with everyone and civilly discuss our path forward, our strategies, and the details therein. None of us want to see anyone forced out of house and home from this, regardless of what the underlying reason is. We're pursuing the path forward that we have assessed to be the best at getting us the desired results while avoiding as much legal action as we possibly can. At which point, Irene, Jim, Andy, Sue, anything that you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, if I could make a couple of comments. I agree with Peter wholeheartedly. And I think there's been a lot of misinformation within the community as far as what has happened and what is happening. And unfortunately, that misinformation continues. And I think a lot of people have been emailing myself and Peter, and a lot of those emails have been very offensive, very rude. I think had we been able to have meetings in person, I don't think a lot of what's been going on would have happened. People making all sorts of comments, because at a physical meeting, people come up to us and talk to us. But what a lot of people within the public don't understand is we have to really limit our conversation and our comments to this kind of a forum. It is unfortunate that there is some misinformation out there, I'm tired of the personal attacks from individuals, the demonizing of people. What I think a lot of our community members don't understand is that we are working. We haven't stopped working because the doors have closed. I think in some ways it's making us work a little bit harder. I've taken a look at a lot of the information myself, come to my own conclusions, and I agree with Peter wholeheartedly. My clear understanding is that if we would do what people call a hard pull, that would be disastrous for us as a town. We have an affirmative obligation to all residents. In November, there was a letter that was sent to the township, and this was before I became a supervisor, and that was with respect to the on-lot management ordinance that was enacted, and I understand there was just an issue of it crossing in the mail. The DP was willing to fine us $300 a day for every day that that ordinance was not implemented. I can't imagine what would happen to us as a town if we were to hard pull the plan. My understanding is it takes about 3 to 4 months to advertise, have the necessary meetings, and have a new plan in place. And that doesn't even guarantee that the DEP would even accept that plan. In addition to that, if they would reject the plan, a new plan, then we're back to the same drawing board. From an administrative perspective, I couldn't even imagine that the DEP would be willing to accept a new plan. If you think about it, with every cycle of elections, and those cycles, correct me if I'm wrong, would overlap about every 2 years or so. With each new board, they would have to deal with a new plan because new people have new ideas. If you look at the laws, if you look at the court cases, going back into the 80s, the DEP wants towns and townships to have sewers. And they've reinforced this over and over and over again through law. To think otherwise, I think would be a little bit foolish. Again, if I could speak for myself and Peter, and I think even Jim, we don't want to see the sewer implemented, but at the same time, we've been dealt a bum card. The prior supervisors put it in place. If there's anyone to blame, blame them. If there's anyone to blame, blame the people who dropped the ball on this issue for the past 40 years. We are trying to deal with the scenario that we've been dealt in the best way that we can and to help everyone that lives in our township. The last thing I would want to do is face a $300 a day fine, and that's at a minimum that we would have to pay, as well as potential lawsuits from the DEP. I'm unwilling as a taxpayer and as a resident to put myself at that kind of a risk, and I would hope that everyone can clearly see that we are working to do what we can to mitigate the circumstances.
Thank you, Irene. I just want to add one thing onto that. It was very well said. Even if we tried to hard pull the plan right now, DEP may not even accept that, and it may instantly trigger a lawsuit on their part. There's like I said, an intelligent way that we can approach this, a tactical way that we can approach this, and whether we hard pull the plan and try to put a new one in or a revised plan in or whatever, or try and put a revised or new plan in now, it's the same functional process. One way, we have fines and orders and actions looming. The other way, we don't. We also have the benefit of the one way having a positive, hopefully positive interaction with the DEP. They have already verbally told us that they are willing to entertain everything that we put before them and discuss and review. No guarantee on approval, but there never is. And if we put something forward and they reject it, we still have the option of going before the Environmental Hearing Board in the same capacity that has been done by Kate and other members of the community leading up to this. We're by no means by the function of taking some time and trying to do it the diplomatic way. We're not cutting any options off for ourselves. The only thing that we have to be cognizant of is the plan was submitted by the other two supervisors last year, and there are certain timetables that come along with that. We're not close to any of the other timetables right now. I believe the next one is we have to do an income study. But if I can speak entirely freely here, it might be worthwhile to do the income study so that we have that bit of information at our disposal as well as we start to move through the revision process.
I agree.
Andy, from a legal sense, is there anything that you want to add that we haven't touched on or covered?
No, I think that both of you spoke very eloquently. That all makes sense to me. I just want to say, you know, my goal is always to give the township good advice as to pros and cons of decisions, and those decisions then are the board's decisions. They're not my decisions, and I would never put pressure on any client, any township, any borough to make a decision. Like I said, my job is to counsel the board on, you know, the benefits or the detriments to those decisions. I would never, you know, say, you know, you should choose this path over this path. If you ask me my opinion, I'll give it, but that's really not the role of any solicitor to do that. I learned that a long time ago. But, you know, at this time, what you both said makes, I think, the most sense. I mean, just from a sheer cost benefit analysis, you know, if you want to fight with DEP, that's always an option, and it always will be. But there is a cost to that, and you know, a pull of the plan definitely has its consequences, and we've discussed that. So that's really all I have to say.
Thank you,
unless there's any questions that you would have.
At this time, I don't, but if I do, please believe me, I'll reach out to you and give you a call or send you an email or anything like that. And I'd just like to reiterate the point, and it's a very valid point, is you're not a member of the board. The decision is ultimately on us. You simply give us advice. The same thing with the engineer. There's certain things that you guys do that are legal that we rely on you to do and are, I would say, kind of our proxy, if you will, drawing things up, getting things prepared. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's us as board members that have to approve it. We make that decision.
Right.
Yeah, again, I have to thank Andy very much for his neutrality. If anything, his advice has been stellar. If anyone chooses to look at the information's out there. It's pretty simple and it's obvious. The DEP is very much in favor of implementation of sewers, and the court cases really favor that. And I'm just very sorry about all the misinformation that is currently out there in our community. And I hope down the road we'll be able to have a town hall where we could discuss these issues with the residents.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the town hall, and I'm sincerely hoping that we can have a nice civil discussion between the board and the people of the town. With that said, like you had focused on, the DEP tends to be pro-sewer. That doesn't necessarily mean that we have to go that route. There's ways to approach this, and the way that I've been trying to outline this, and I'm part of the way through a type over on the current plan, as I've shared details behind that with you and Jim. Nothing of discussion, mind you, but just, hey, here's what I'm thinking, here's what I'm writing. The Act 537 at its heart is the long-term plan for the sewage needs of the township. If we clearly outline what our plan is, we're going to start managing via on-lot. We have the ordinance in place now. We're going to, over the next couple of years, have reams of quality data coming in of what the actual condition of our systems is. And it's going to be, in my mind, a cost benefit. Is it going to cost the residents more money to stay on on-lot systems or potentially have a holding tank than it is to go to sewer? And there is a tipping point there. If we clearly outline that, clearly define that's what our long-term plan is, I think we'll be able to find traction with that. And it may be a situation where we may all be pleasantly surprised. We may have really good systems in the township, and we may have maybe 6 out of 160 properties that have problems. The argument against sewer would be supported very heavily in that plan. And assuming it's approved, that would be something that we'd have legs to stand on to say, we're not ready for this. When we get to that point, we'll talk. But if we're not there yet, we're not there yet.
Could I add, Peter, that you know, I'm the newest board member, and I was appointed, not elected. But the people of this community, this township, I don't know if they realize how blessed they are to have 2 people that they elected that are very intelligent and very committed to making this a better township, and they're very, very committed to solving this problem with the least amount of cost as possible. And $300 a day fines or $9,000 a month in fines is something that we can't afford. So I think since DEP is willing to talk, let's talk.
Yeah, we have
And
that.
I want to thank both of you for your intelligence and your commitment to getting this solved. And please, people, if you're listening to this or you see this, these threats don't accomplish anything.
Well, thank you, Jim. The kind words are very appreciated. Yeah, we're trying to approach this in the best way possible. And I personally, I don't like to preclude a diplomatic option while it's still there. If the time comes where we got to take the gloves off, I hope we don't get to that point, just as a matter of personal statement. But we're looking to make this the best it can be, and whatever route we have to take to get there, please believe me that we will take it. Okay, that is the last item on the agenda. So at this point, we will move into the comments. I don't have anything to comment on beyond what we've already covered in the meeting. Irene, do you have any comments?
John wanted to add something more.
Absolutely.
I'm good.
Yeah.
There you are. Thank you. The one that I want to work on is NFPA 704, which if you see that, if you've ever seen that before.
Yeah.
Any of the big,
Oh, we lost you there.
especially like
We lost you there for a second, John. Can you repeat?
any, as far as any of the businesses, the farms within our township, like the big poultry farms, where they have tens of thousands of gallons of propane on site, and prior to me as EMC, in conversation with the fire department, some of the lower personnel, asking them, do you know what's up there? And he said, no, we have no idea. And this is easily implemented, and I'm a member of NFPA, and I'm getting the information on it, what's our implementation process and what. And basically, the buildings and then the entrance to the location are going to be that sign, which, trust me, is extremely cheap for the businesses and farms to put up. It's just that big heads up for response. We're going in on it. You see the biohazard sign, the poultry now, and the wherever we can locate as far as the 704 standard. But then also, I want to know if we have to even create it ourselves. Locations with potential confined space, below ground sewer tanks. We keep reading about this. I get all the articles all the time from the State Fire Academy since I teach. And, two farmers, father and then two children go in after them and they die in an oxygen deficient atmosphere, stuff like that. But I know our fire department does not have a confined space capability. They probably be calling probably Spring Township, Western Berks Fire Department, etc. So I'll be working on that. And I'll get you guys some more information here over the next couple of weeks once I receive some more information. Then the second item, have any of you seen the B-CERT? What's called CERT, the Community Emergency Response. Yeah, Community Emergency Response Team, CERT.
I can't say that I've seen it.
Okay. I know Lancaster has a team, and it is made up, basically, it's not the fire department by any means. We don't even want to take people from the fire department because during an emergency, for us, between flooding, any kind of inclement weather, thunderstorms, we can actually operate, we can activate at your direction or EMCs to implement our team. And there is training involved for medical search, just trees down, basic first aid, and it's all FEMA, it's funded by FEMA. We just have to basically be the sponsor of it. And I spoke to emergency management coordinator who covers Sinking Spring.
We lost you again there for about 10 seconds, John.
I spoke to the emergency management coordinator east of us for South Heidelberg, Lower Heidelberg. He would love to get involved also as doing almost like a Western Berks team. We'd have, a contingent. He'd have a contingent. We can depend on each, basically our own mutual aid system, just like the fire department has. Mm-hmm. But the one location I would love to get down to that I think would be a huge asset for us is the Stonecrop development. You know, there's no age is turned away. It can be people just running an office side of things for documentation if we need it, because we're not going to be getting help from FEMA for days if we had an incident. FEMA will still take a couple days to respond. We have to be able to do some stuff on our own.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay with me looking into it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, I'll go one step further. Please call me, send me an email with the points that you have or the things you think we need or the areas that we think would be ideal to try to canvas or address or put a line out to.
Okay.
I'd be delighted to work with you on getting that done.
John,
No,
thank
that's all
you
part
for
of
your
this.
commitment.
I live for this. I have contact information from Nestle company to start getting free donations of water. It's just location to store it. Sue really helped me out the one day, and I understand her reason that no one goes to the basement. I will never go to that basement again at the township building.
I highly advise against it. It's a horrible place.
Not doing it. But if I can start getting anything free, where, you know, somewhere in that building that we can store it, and obviously it won't freeze. I'm not worried about getting too hot in areas, but you know, I don't want cases of bottles of water to freeze equipment we get.
Yeah, one of the things that we could evaluate is long-term, I've got thoughts for the second floor of the building, but even if it's something as simple as getting a space heater or an electric baseboard heater put into one of the smaller rooms for storage, we can certainly cross that bridge. Just, again, if you give me a list of really what you're trying to focus in on or things that you've identified as needs, I'd be delighted to take an evening or two to work with you on it.
Okay. I have Sue.
We lost you about 10 seconds again there. I'm going to give Irene a call after the call to see if I can do anything to help her or help you guys with your internet. Seems like you got a lot of packet loss.
Okay. I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
He promised that he would try to find funding for the windows.
Yay.
I'm going to say that I will be delighted. I will be over the moon if he's actually able to find funding, because I tried in earnest over the past 2 years to find anything that would be applicable for us for grant money for replacing the windows, and it's thin pickings, and even the ones that are there, most of them we weren't eligible for. So I will get party hats out of my own pocket if he actually manages to make that stick.
Yeah, I think overall he's really looking to see what we could do to operate as an emergency operations center and trying to work with funding for that. So he's been working hard. Good. I'm glad to hear it. I think he's an excellent fit for the role, and it's something that we've not had as a township for quite a long time. And I can't speak for anybody that was the prior EMC, but I don't know that they brought that level of passion to the position. Okay, Jim, do you have any comments?
The only comment I would have is thank God for John. He's done a fantastic job.
Yeah.
And we really, really appreciate you, John. Thank you so much.
Okay. Andy, do you have any comments?
Thanks, Peter. I have nothing further.
Okay, thank you. Sue?
Just what I have written there. Just wanted to let you know the road crew is done mowing roadside, and they had one load of cold patch and patch some potholes, and they're looking forward to patching more potholes.
Good.
And they, along with Topahakan Road Crew and Topahakan Police, will be mowing Route 419 on June 1st.
Okay, good. Regarding your note about calling Butch Fike, I'll give him a call this week.
Because we only have till July 1st, and we have to get 5 loads.
Yeah. The window is rapidly closing, so I'll connect with you this week to make sure I have the right number for Butch.
Okay.
I'll give him a call and see if we can.
According to Frank, they have room for 3 loads.
Okay.
So we still have to store more.
We still have to store 2, but it's a lot easier to figure out 2 than it is to figure out 5.
Right.
Yeah, so I'll give him a call this week and see if we can't work something out. But
okay.
If I, for some reason, forget, remind me, please.
Okay.
Thank you, Sue.
I can send you an email and a text every single day.
I like it. Thank you.
I'm good at hounding.
Well, it's good. I appreciate it. It keeps me on track. If we don't have anything else, I'll motion to adjourn the meeting. The time
Nothing
is
else.
5 a.m.
Second.
Roll call. Peter,
Aye.
Irene,
Aye.
Jim.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the weekend. For those of you who have the ability to have a nice long weekend, enjoy the nice long weekend, and please stay safe.
Same to you. Happy Memorial Day.
What was that, Andy?
I said Happy Memorial Day.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Happy Memorial Day. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Have a good one, everybody.
Bye. I had a little friend here.